What's up, gangsters? We're going to break down an objection handling flowchart in just 1 second here. So this is going to be very helpful for you if you are getting stumped with the common objections. Like, I want to think about it. That's too much money. I got to talk to my spouse. Now's not a good time. So I'm going to share my screen. First of all, I want to walk you through one framework, and then I'm going to show you this other framework. So this first one is a general. Okay, so here's the flow chart. And this is really, a lot of it is self-explanatory, but really I want to walk you through the thinking behind objection handling in general. So there's a very logical process that you would just walk someone through in order to handle any objection. All right, so I'm going to just walk you through. Number one is they have to agree on, you guys both have to agree on the problem, right? Before you talk about your offer and the finances and all that, do you agree on the problem? Because if they don't even think they have a problem, your offer is not going to land with them. Right? It seems self-explanatory, but a lot of people miss this. Right? Number one, if they agree on the problem, awesome. Move to phase two. Do you agree on not your offer, but do you agree on the service, or sorry, the solution? So if you're talking to me and you're like, you know what, I can't get leads. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, okay, well, the problem is you can't get leads because your offer is too generic, right? You need a unique mechanism. And let's say that we both agree that the solution is to create a unique mechanism. Awesome. We can move on to the next phase. But if you're like, no, I don't really think I need a unique mechanism. I think I just need Facebook ads. Well, then we're at an impasse and we have to circle back, and I have to basically burn that bridge if I'm trying to sell you on why you need a unique mechanism. So this is a random example. Number three, can you do it yourself? Guess what? If you don't get them to say, no, I can't do it myself, and get to the end of your pitch, they can easily just say, well, guess what? I think I'm just going to do this myself, and if it doesn't work, I'll come back. Can you do it yourself? And what if they go, oh, yeah, I can't do it myself? Well, then you just ask, well, if you got help, would you be able to do it faster with less pain and sacrifice and effort, less trial and error? And if they'll agree to that, then you can move on to the next one. Okay. And the next one is, do you want to do it with us? And I'm going to go through this list in this order if someone gives me an objection. Do you want to do it with us? If they say no, well, then you got a problem, don't you? They're like, I don't really trust you guys. I don't really know anything about you. So then you got to go and maybe share some stories, case studies, social proof. Maybe you should have sent this before the call so that there was trust built up beforehand. If this was like a cold conversation, this could be your main objection, not the price. They don't know anything about you, therefore they don't want to work with you. If you're like going through this list, we check all these off. They like you. Yeah, I want to do it with you. Awesome. Do you believe our process would work for you? Right? They have to believe. It's not just enough to want to, like, that I like you, but do you believe that my process would even get you the result? If it's a no, well, then you have to explain, or you have to ask why not. right? Well, what possibly would make you feel like this wouldn't work? Do you see any reason why this wouldn't work for you? This should be part of your closing. So if we're checking all these off, then we can go to the main objections. So number one is, do you want to solve this now? Do you want to solve this now or later? They might say, you know what, I want to solve this later. Well, then we have to figure out, can we push them forward? Or is it a legitimate reason why they can't do it now? Right? It might be a logistical objection. Like, I literally cannot do this now. I'm about to go on this big trip, and then I got this other thing planned. I'm going to this conference. So I literally cannot start this until 3 weeks from now. That just might be, that's a logistical objection. That's an actual objection. If you know it's a legit objection, if like you can't get past it, like, no, there's nothing I can do, right? You could offer to buy them some extra time. That's kind of different, but it's kind of like a smokescreen objection when they throw out one thing and then you handle it, and then they throw out another thing, and then another thing and another thing, and they're all completely different. I'm like, okay, well, this person is just scared, right? They're just afraid, and I just called it out. So do you want to solve this now? They say, yes, I want to solve this now. Or they go, well, I don't know. You would say, well, if I had a magical wand and I just waved it and made this problem go away, would you want me to wave that problem now or 6 months down the line, or whenever they say they want to get started? They would probably say, oh, well, I want to get started now. Okay. Well, do you have the time to do it now? Like, could you spare an hour a day? Well, yeah, I could. Okay, cool. Well, then the next thing is, do you need anyone else to help you make the decision? Is there anyone else involved? You should know this already, but we're moving through the objections here. What do you think the next one is? Finances. Hey, if it were free, would you do it? So if someone's like, oh, I don't have the money. Oh, that's too expensive. Well, if it were free, would you do it? Oh, for sure. If they answer this question, there's two ways they can answer this question. And depending on what they say, you lead the conversation in one of two ways. So it's either they have no cash flow, so this is a logistical objection, or they don't see the value. So, hey, if it were free, would you do it? Maybe. Okay, well, they don't see the value, right? So that's the real problem. And we're going to get to the value next. If they go, oh, I would totally do it, I just don't have the money to do it, then we know it's a cash flow thing, and we can try to figure out a payment plan, or we can go into that. And there's scripting for how to do that. But I want you to know how to think about objections. So if we get down to this stage where they don't see the value, it helps to think of the value equation that Hormozi talks about in $100 million offers. So what is the value equation? It's the results times the PLA, which is the perceived likelihood of achievement. In other words, their percentage. What percent chance do you think you will hit this result? I'll show you what we're going to do with this. And then we divide that by the sacrifice or the effort needed to reach said result times the time it will take to get there. And so everything we're doing in our pitch should be to increase the top and to decrease the bottom. So we want to show them why, if they work with us, it's going to be the least amount of time and sacrifice to get to their outcome. right? So we cross these guys off the list, and that if they work with us, they're going to get the biggest result. So we cross this one off the list. And then the conversation just comes down to the, God damn it, motherfucker. The conversation just comes down to percentages, statistics, logic. Okay, well, let me ask you this. What is the risk on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest? What is the risk that if you do this by yourself, that you won't get the result? Or another way of saying this, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being 100% it's going to work, 1 is it's not going to work at all. If you were to do this by yourself, what is the likelihood that you will get to the result that you want in the next 6 months, given the fact that you've been trying this for the past 3 years? 1 to 10. And they might say, probably like a 5. Okay. Now, what is the result? Same question. What is the likelihood that you will get there with someone who's done it hundreds, if not thousands of times, who has a step-by-step process, someone who could show you exactly what to do to shortcut the learning curve and to give you feedback and guidance and support? What is the likelihood that you would get there with that process? And then they might tell you 7. Not a huge difference. And so really there's, well, what we could do here is just say, well, listen, man, you can do a few things to reframe this, but at the end of the day, the very last objection is around the value, but the last one after this is fear or self-doubt, right? Which I'll get to. But what I would say is like, look, can I share with you the way that the most successful people think about their business? And they go, yeah. Well, the most successful people are not looking for the thing that's going to work 100%. They're just playing the odds, right? So if you went to a casino and you had a dice that would win 50% of the time, and then you had a dice that would win 70% of the time, which one would you pick? Well, I picked the 70%. Why though? Well, it's more likely to win. Okay. And this is the exact same thing. So really here, what we're talking about is picking the highest odds, right? And so you can do a few things, like there's specific scripting, but I want you to understand the thought process behind this, because this is how people should make decisions. They should go with the odds, right? What's it going to cost you? The other thing is like, what's it going to cost you not getting the result? Right? What happens if you don't get there? You have a 50% chance you won't get there. What's that going to cost you versus a 30% chance of not getting there? It's like, well, this and that and this and that. Okay. And so the last one is really fear. Fear or self-doubt. You might go through all of this and they'll still want to think about it. You know, and then you can just call it out. Listen, man, is it just nerves? Right? So what we want to do is minimize. We want to minimize the fear. Listen, bro, is it just nerves? Like, is it just more money than you were expecting to spend? Yeah. Okay. So you physically have the money, but it's just like you're worried, what if it doesn't work? Right? Yeah. Right. And then we can kind of go into ways to handle this. You can minimize it. We can reframe. I'll teach you about reframing right now. So we have to understand what a belief is. All people, every action that we take is a result of our beliefs. And the structure of a belief is if, then, and then there's means up here, right? So just to draw this out, if then means. So if I spend this money, that means I'm going to be broke. If I spend this money, that means I'm irresponsible. So people have all these weird beliefs, and so we have to understand how they think before we can reframe them. Right? And so we can reframe a few things. You can listen, you're looking at this the wrong way. You're thinking, if I spend this, what happens if I don't get the result? What happens if I fail? My question is, what happens if you don't spend this money and give yourself that chance and you just keep going on doing what you're doing and nothing changes? What happens then? Right? Or change the meaning. You know, we can reframe the meaning of fear. Listen, bro, it's a good thing that you're afraid. What do you mean? Well, if you weren't afraid, I would be concerned for you, because all growth happens outside of our comfort zone, right? And our comfort zone, by definition, is comfortable. If it were an easy decision for you to make this, if this were an easy decision for you to make right now, then it wouldn't be growth for you, right? Oh, I guess that makes sense. There's other things happen that could show up here, like maybe they've been burned before, right? This can be a case. Oh, you know, I invested in this other course and it didn't work, and oh, boo-hoo. Yeah, bro, I get it. You know, we've all have. You know, it's like we've all been on dates with girls, or we've all been in relationships that didn't work out. We don't let that stop us from finding the love of our life. We've all been in car accidents, probably. We don't let that stop us from driving, right? And so I get that you've been burned, but let me ask, there's usually, when someone says that they've been burned, there's usually one of three scenarios. Number one, the strategies that guru gave you, the strategies were outdated. Strategies, it should say strategies, it's fucking handwriting is like a doctor. Strategies were bad. Number two, there was no customization. It was too generic. There was no customization, or maybe you could say there was no support, or there's no accountability. Or number three, you didn't do the work. And then you go, which one was it for you? Yeah, well, you know, I didn't really do the work. Okay, well, this is going to be different this time because we have accountability. We're going to be making sure that you're taking action. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to make it good, man. Let's do it. And there's so much stuff that you can do to reframe fear, right? You can tell stories. You can do all kinds of ninja tricks. A lot of it is just, you got to put on your mindset coach hat at a certain point. So now that you understand big picture stuff about objection handling, I'll show you the scripts here, and I'll put these in a place where you can easily find them. So here's some scripting. Now, there's fear around money, fear around logistics. I don't have my timing on it. I actually have another flowchart which has a few more objections, but here's the general flow, right? Someone says, yeah, I just want to think about it. You go, yeah, not a problem. Disarm. Could I ask your opinion before you go think about it, though? Yeah. Well, do you feel like this would even work for you? Do you feel like this could get you to whatever the goal is that they want? Not do you think, do you feel? We want to get them feeling. Well, yeah, I feel like it would. Yeah. Well, why do you though? What is it that makes you feel like it would work? Well, you know, you got this thing and that, and you got this and this. Okay, cool. Sounds good, man. So what's coming up for you that makes you want to go think about it? And then we want to get to the real objection here, which is usually going to be it's money. If it's not money, it's probably fear, or maybe it's their partner. You know, I just really got to talk to my wife, my business partner, whatever. So this line of questioning is just one way to rehandle fear around spending money. Right. This one is good if you realize that they're afraid of spending money because of a cash flow concern logistically. So like the problem is that they don't have the money. So it's like, okay, well, money aside, you feel like this will get you where you want to go? Yeah. Okay, so if you had the money right now, if I dropped off a big bag of money, would you do it? Yes, I would. Why? Okay, gotcha. So it's just, so you're not in a place where you're thinking, should I do this? But it's more like, how can I make it work for me? Or like, so would it be fair to say it's an issue of the logistics of the investment rather than whether or not we can actually help you? Yeah. And so you can just go into your payment plans. If we could do this and that, would that make sense for you? Hey, if we could break it up, would that make it easier? Like you can say stuff like that, right? Then this is into really the fear of spending the money. And so a lot of these are the same. So before we go into their objection, we always want to circle back and say, well, do you feel like this would even work for you before we talk about your objection? And then they go, yes. So we're kind of like circling back and crossing off uncertainty. Then we're going into the objection. So this fear one, it's better to understand what you're doing with this rather than memorize these scripts or have it up in front of you when you're talking to someone. So you have to understand the thought process behind what you're doing here to handle objections. So this is just an example. Would it be fair to say that you're looking for certainty here? Yeah. You're looking for certainty that this will 100% work for you, or that this will get you where you want to be? Yeah. Okay, we agree that you feel it will work, right? Yeah. So the other side of this is like, if you don't do it, how will you ever know? So let me ask you a question. Are you committed? We want to tie back down. Are you committed to doing everything you need to do to get the result so that you can XYZ? Yes or no? Yes, I am. Okay, so what would you do if you knew all you had to do was just be there and then we'll do everything you need to be successful? It's just there on the other side of that bridge, that other side of that wall. Is if you knew that you were showing up and we were showing up, the real question is, would you do it? Well, yeah. Well, how will you know if you don't even commit to yourself first? So here's the thing in sales. They're investing through us in themselves. They're investing in themselves through us. And so the first thing they have to commit to is to themselves. And they have to commit to changing. And really, we're like the last chain in that link. And so here's the thing. We either come together and push, and I'm with you every step of the way. I know it's scary and hard, and it's supposed to be. And we put a line in the fucking sand and go for it. And we meet that fear head on, or we crumble and go back to just how things have been. And you could even do a pushback here. Just be like, listen, man, I'm not saying that you should even work with us. Maybe things are fine for you right now. Maybe you don't really need these things that you said that you want. I don't know. But what is the best decision for Paul, for name at this result? Like this is their goal. How do you feel like the version of you, or I would actually preempt this. Do you feel like there's a version of you that's already there, right? In another universe, there's a version of you that's already making 50K per month. Do you believe that? Yeah. Okay, well, how do you feel like that version of you makes the decision here now? That man who's making 20K or 50K or whatever, doing the things that they said were important to them. How do you feel that guy makes the decision? Well, like, okay, well, like, what do you want to do from here? So there's a lot of like ninja things you can do at this stage. You could say, do you believe that we all have like a higher self and a lower self? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, our higher self is led by our vision, and our lower self is led by, do you know what it's led by? What? Fear. Oh. And so right now, what would your higher self say to you right now? And then let them handle their own objection. That's the thing. So like, what do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best position so that you can do X, Y, Z? Well, da da da. So there's that. There's so many ways to reframe fear. It's like, just learn a few of them. There's the one is like, do you want to be the person who's led by their vision or led by fear? There's really two types of people. Who do you want to be? Well, I want to be led by fear. Okay, are you willing to settle for that? I guess. Well, whose choice is that? Mine. Okay. Well, great. Well, I hate objection handling, by the way. I try not to do it. So I try to clear up all this stuff before I pitch, but sometimes you have to go through it, and it just really helps to know how to do it. And so with the spouse, yeah, I just got to talk to my spouse. Yeah, that's not a problem. Totally understand. Can I ask in your own opinion, before you go and sit with your wife or husband, do you feel like we've gone through will get you to the result? Yes. Okay. Well, why do you feel like it can though? Oh, because of this and that. Gotcha. So here's the thing, we can go back to their past agreements. So when you go and talk to them, do you feel like they would want you to learn these skills so that you can get this outcome? Like, are they supportive? Yeah, totally. Okay, and great. And I suppose when you go and talk to them, what do you feel like would be the potential obstacles on something to this, which may have stopped her in the past from moving forward? So when you ask a question like this, what does it do? They tell you their objection. Well, like, what do you feel like would be her main concerns around something like this? And then the prospect, obviously the spouse isn't here, so they're just going to tell you what's on their mind, right? The other things to add here would be like, well, what if they say no? Oh, well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to just not do it. Okay, well, like, what's more important? Getting the things that you said you want for the reasons you said you want them, or like getting the approval of your spouse. The other one is there's a frame of permission versus respect. Gotcha. And so when you go to speak with your spouse, is it more so like a respect thing? Like, you're already in, you want to do this, you just want to make sure that they're on board? Or is it a permission thing where like you have to make sure that you're allowed to do this? Which one is it? So if you say it like that, like, especially to a woman, you're like, oh, you have to make sure that you're allowed to do this. That alone will be like, you're not directly calling them out, but nobody wants to feel like they're not allowed to do something. And they're like, what the fuck? Of course I'm allowed to do this. I'm like, I'm a boss, babe. But that's good, because if they say respect, then you can just push for a deposit close and say, okay, well, let's get you in a deposit. Worst case, they say no, and we just give you your money back. But this way you get to put that line in the sand and say, okay, let's do it. Let's move forward. And then, you already told me that your wife supports you. So, let's just do it. Okay. So oftentimes you can just push for the deposit close. If it goes to a permission close, what you do, if you have to do a second call, you book that call within 24 hours. You don't let it go longer than 24 hours. Okay, well, when can you speak to your wife tonight? Right? If they say anything more than 24 hours, it's weird. Like, you don't talk to your wife every day. You don't talk to your business partner every day. Like, sometimes these people give you like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to my business partner in like 3 or 4 days. That's when we'll talk about it. Like, bro, what kind of business relationship do you have? Like, when I had an old business partner, we spoke every day. We lived together for a while, and so you got to call that stuff out. The biggest thing with this is just not being afraid to handle these objections. Knowing the thinking behind them really helps. But the other thing is, like, you have to challenge people. And if you're too afraid of getting rejected and too afraid of pushing people, well, you just will have to understand that you'll never make as many sales as you could, right? Sales, it comes down to pushing people out of their comfort zone, because it's uncomfortable to change. And in order for someone to buy something, a high ticket service, typically they have to change And so there's two opposing forces here. They know they need to change, but it's painful to do it. And so that's why you have to get uncomfortable pushing it. Like you have to be fine with feeling uncomfortable, because it can be feel like it feels really weird for me to push these people, but it's part of the process. So hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, DM me, and I'll catch you guys in the next training.